Hello there. My name is Saida the Chosen King, and right now you're listening to me do a really terrible impression. But nonetheless, I do thank you so much for clicking onto my wrestling show, and I hope that you will enjoy listening to it. Please do me the favor and the honor of subscribing to my channel so that you may get new cool episodes of the main card as well as other equally cool content. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, that way you will know exactly when a new episode drops. You're listening to yet another episode of the main card, and today's episode is all about one individual, one named Patrick Clark Jr., but we all know him as the Velveteen Dream, currently signed to NXT, of course. Now, for all of you guys who don't know the Velveteen Dream, I for one say this is actually a person that you should know, and I'm sure for those of us who've watched Tough Enough will recognize the Velveteen Dream because he was actually on Tough Enough under his real name, Patrick Clark. But before I get into that, I just want to mention the fact that the reason why I'm doing this episode around Patrick Clark, around the Velveteen Dream, because I literally deem the Velveteen Dream to be the fastest rising superstar in NXT right now, and possibly in all of WWE, because of the fact that if you look at where he started up until to where he is now, you'll be very surprised actually of how quickly he got there. Number one, he was in Tough Enough in 2015, and he was literally that one guy where, if you remember, he is a fan of wrestling, and he was very out there with that. But unfortunately for him, he lost out on a spot, finishing 9th overall, because of the fact that they felt he wasn't humble enough to be in the competition, to be part of the WWE. His humility was lacking, like greatly at that, so he was voted out of the competition. But then later on that year, he would be signed to a developmental contract under the WWE, and he would work there in the Performance Center. He would be signed in the Performance Center. Now, being in the Performance Center, obviously you will learn all the tricks of the trade of the entire wrestling business. But then what we might not know as well at the same time is that actually Patrick had trained in pro wrestling even prior to that, in 2014, where he wrestled at the Maryland Championship Wrestling Training Center. That's where he trained, and then he wrestled for them, winning the MCW Tag Team Championship with another new signee of NXT in Lio Rush. I'm sure you've seen Lio Rush's name in the headlines in the past number of weeks. And then he also did do a few independent promotions like World Extreme Wrestling and Combat Zone Wrestling as well. But going back to his time right now at NXT, for all of us who've been watching NXT, particularly when it comes to NXT Breaking Ground, we should, and we probably do understand how difficult it is for any one of those people working in NXT to get TV time, to be on TV in NXT. We see people sometimes get signed and then they go straight to TV. You know, people like Adam Cole, people like if I can mention Samoa Joe, people like Finn Balor, for instance. Obviously, I'm not saying they got signed and they went like straight to like TV, with the exception of Adam Cole, but they got to TV much quicker. Another example would be Drew McIntyre. So for him to find himself in the spot where he is now, where he's wrestling on TV, even being in NXT for about 2 years, and obviously I'm sure working NXT live events and tours and anything like that, it's an achievement in the sense that it shows probably his work ethic and how quickly he grasps on to a lot of things. And I'm sure if I was to be the one to see like how he's able to do that, I think it goes to what they were taught when they were in Tough Enough, and what a lot of trainers usually say when you listen to them in interviews. And they usually mention how coachable are you. You know, they usually deem a person's success to sometimes how coachable they are. And it would seem that Patrick is very coachable because of the fact that you seem to be seeing his rise in NXT. You seem to be seeing his rise as a superstar, and it seems to be happening at a rather quick pace. And then when you consider now when he got repackaged and he got the character of the Velveteen Dream and what he's doing with it, being around on TV for a short time compared to, you know, other people, the Velveteen Dream character is really getting over with people, and it's really getting over in a great way, in the sense that now he's really into the character and he's playing it very well, and even was put in a situation with a superstar like Aleister Black, where now he had to prove himself, and one would say that he has done that so far. Now, I'm going to speak and I'm going to say that I have not watched the match that he had with Aleister Black at NXT TakeOver War Games, but upon reading about it, upon reading not necessarily the reviews, but reading about the match, reading about what people have written around the match, it would seem that he had a great performance in that match, and it would seem that he had a great night. So I'm going to be watching that match to check out in actual fact what people are talking about. But I am not surprised, because of the fact that what I'm seeing now from Patrick Clark is the fact that you see someone who has a lot of talent, and you see someone who is a fan, and he's showing that by literally being in that environment and just taking everything in. It would be very interesting if you would have him have an interview now to document how his life has changed ever since he was in Tough Enough up until this present moment, and how him being eliminated from Tough Enough because of a lack of humility affected him, and then how, if it at all helped get him to where he is now. What's interesting to me also is the fact that him being eliminated so early in Tough Enough, but if you actually go back now to the Performance Center, if you go back to NXT, he is the most successful person from that season of Tough Enough. And when it comes to the guys, because of the fact that you got ZZ, who was signed to a developmental contract, but then ZZ was released. You got the winner Josh, who was signed to a contract in NXT, also signed to a developmental contract, but he has also been released as well. But Patrick, the one guy who was a wrestling fan, who had a lot of confidence in himself that he was going to win this competition and was taken out, now he's in NXT, now he's on NXT TV, and now he's becoming established as this character, the Velveteen Dream, of which is playing very well and which is portraying very well. So I decided to pay this episode to him, in the sense that to highlight the fact that we're literally watching right now someone who is special, in the sense that this is a fan who's showing that he can be very good, who's showing that being in that environment is helping him, and he's very coachable, and he's looking to make something of himself, is looking to make something huge of himself in this sense. And what's very encouraging to maybe a lot of people might be the fact that maybe people might not know that Patrick Clark is actually 22 years old, because of the fact that he was born in August 1995. So now having a 22-year-old who's already on NXT TV and making a great impression and is in great condition, he's a great athlete, and you have this man now who's making that much of an impact, it would seem that he's got a bright future ahead of him, in the sense that if he keeps going this way and he keeps learning more and more and more, one can only wonder what the limit's going to be for him, you know. So that's why I say the Velveteen Dream is the fastest rising superstar right now in all of the WWE. When you put together NXT, Smackdown Live, and Monday Night Raw, he is the fastest rising superstar, because of the fact that signed to the WWE on NXT on a developmental contract in 2015, and already in 2017 is on NXT TV, is already had a match at NXT TakeOver against Aleister Black, of which has received great praise, if I see correctly. So this guy is actually doing what he has to do, and I think maybe, just maybe, it's his ability to be coachable that's gotten him over so much when it comes to having received opportunity after opportunity and having to probably have taken it. Sure, I'm sure he's had his failures along the road, because he did debut under his real name actually in NXT, but then probably didn't work, so hence why he probably got repackaged into the Velveteen Dream. And now he's having all this success. And though his character, in some instances, a lot of people can say that is very unorthodox, it's a very watchable character, and it's a very enticing to the eyes, in terms of you want to see what this man is going to be doing. And I, for one, pay attention to the Velveteen Dream, and I enjoy watching the Velveteen Dream. And then when I first saw that, man, this is Patrick. This is Patrick Clark. He looks very familiar, and I was right. That's how I got intrigued by the fact that he's risen to that level so quickly. So I, for one, would love to hear maybe him doing an interview on one of the premier podcasts, if I can put it that way, when it comes to professional wrestling over there in the USA, maybe something along the lines of Talk is Jericho, for instance. Actually, I think Talk is Jericho would be much more perfect. Or even the Edge and Christian podcast, or the ENC Part of Awesomeness. If you can have him have that interview and actually document his life from the time that he was in Tough Enough up until now, as in how things changed, is if him being eliminated from Tough Enough affected him in any way, and how has it actually affected his mindset, how has it actually affected his behavior, because of the fact that he was eliminated because of the fact they felt that he had a lack of humility. So I would be very much interested to hear that interview from Patrick Clark, even if he does the interview as the Velveteen Dream. It would be even more interesting, I think. But nonetheless, I term it that the Velveteen Dream is definitely someone to watch out for, definitely someone that people should pay attention to going forward, because of the man is literally rising up the NXT ranks very, very quickly, and we can only be excited as to what's going to happen in the future when it comes to the Velveteen Dream.